Hello, and welcome to episode 114 of the Mousewitch Knitting Podcast. I think I'm going to get Ewan to turn on the light. 2 seconds. I'm not sure that's any better, but it might be if it gets any darker out there. It is a dreary, wet day in Somerset today. We're under a thunderstorm warning, which means more flooding. And very poor light for people who are trying to podcast, which is very selfish of the weather, I think. I don't remember if I said this is the Mousewitch Knitting Podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse, and this is Miss Poppy, who was sitting up just now but has laid back down and gone to sleep. Before I begin, I'm going to apologise for not recording last week. I know some of you will have been worried because my health hasn't been good this year, and it had nothing to do with that at all. I was absolutely fine. In fact, I was so fine, I had a plan for the day. I was going to Zoom in the morning. After lunch, I was going to record the podcast. And I was sat there Zooming, knitting, minding my own business, and I was seized by an urge. And I ignored it for about 15-20 minutes. And in the end, I just put my knitting down and I said, I'm going to rearrange my craft room. And then I proceeded to do that for the rest of the day. It took a lot longer than I'd expected. Dave came home early, which was not really what I'd hoped for, because probably a third of the stuff that lives in here was still out on the landing. But I got it finished. I got it finished before dinner time. I was still on Zoom for most of the day and it's sorted. So you may, if you've been here before, realise that there are no more drawers next to me. I've moved them over there onto a different chest of drawers, which unfortunately is taller, so now I struggle to reach the top drawer. But Ewan was here to help me, so it was fine. And I now have a little space with my weird sort of A-frame thing that's got shelfy drawers on it, and I've got Yorick out. Now, I know a lot of you don't like skulls, but this was given to me by my oldest son Peter, who'd had it as a Christmas present when he was maybe 12 and has grown out of all the gothic-y stuff, which I haven't. So I now have Yorick, and his head, half his head comes off. And voila, yarn bowl. Who knew that was his job all along? So he has been very helpfully holding yarn for me all week. Very stylishly too. Anyway, that's all by the by. It's now 3 minutes in and all I've done is just talk nonsense. I have got a finished object. You will probably know what it is, if you were here last week. I've got something new that I cast on. In fact, 2 somethings new that I cast on to show you. And some sewing. And that's really all there is this week. So it's probably going to be not a very long podcast. Although there are a couple of exciting announcements if you hang on to the end. Shall we start? You may have guessed, if you can hear creaking, it's Ewan. He's getting ready to go for a run. In this awful weather, he is adamant it's not raining. I don't get all this running business. I can't run. Believe it or not, when I was at school, I was a sprinter. But now, for reasons involving motorcycles and cars and surgeries, my left leg isn't always where my brain thinks it is, so I can't run. I get 2 or 3 steps and then I face plant. So all this running for pleasure business, I'm saving my running for the zombie apocalypse. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, I've finished my Geogradient. It's huge. I remember being worried when I had finished Clue 3 that it wasn't going to be very big. How foolish I was. It's enormous. It's so big that when I blocked it, I folded it in half, and I have unfortunately now got this little lump because I didn't straighten the middle quite well enough, or at least, oh, I don't know, but that will go. I'm not worried about that. That just needs a little bit of stretching out, maybe dampen it and just block that very bit there, that's all. So here it is in all it, oh sorry Pops, in all its glory. As I say, there is a lot of it. I'm very, very happy with it. I enjoyed knitting it so much. I added in some colours for the border because I'd knit the whole of the original Clue 1 before the Clue 1 was changed. And looking at what other people had said on a Facebook group that I belong to, even if I'd pulled that down, I wouldn't have had enough to do the border to the size that I wanted and put on fringe, or even just do the border to the size that I wanted. So I added in 2 different yarns. So I'll go through the yarns that are here. They are, let's start in the middle. I think that might actually be coming out a better colour. This has been coming out blues, and they're not blue at all. That is turquoise. Then there's a teal and a petrol. They are all my own hand dyed. The purple is Cascade Heritage sock in dark plum. And then into the border I added this pale blue, which is Scapia's Ultimate Sock or something. I can't remember. This teal, which is an opal sock yarn, and again I can't remember which number. And this blue, which again is my own hand dyed. And then for the last rows and the border, I went back to excuse me, the teal and the purple from earlier on in the shawl. There are various places you can duck out of the border. You could duck out as soon as you've finished Clue 3 and just put an I-cord on the edge. You can do, I can't remember how many rows it is, but you can do the same number as Stephen West did, which just gives you quite a narrow border, I think. I went to row 38 and the border rows go up to 50. I would have gone up to 50, but I just didn't think I could make it. The Scapia's was a 50-gram ball and I used about 45 grams of it. So I didn't want to push it because I thought I might be going to put fringe on. Now that it's finished, I don't think I am. If I put on a fringe, it's got to go on every one of these little gaps. And there's well over 100 of them. I might change my mind and do it later on. I don't know. At the moment, I don't think I'm going to. But it is quite large. I don't know that I will be wearing it like this very much. Maybe on very, very cold days. This is, if I'm wearing a shawl out of the house, it tends to be like this, like a giant scarf. It is quite bulky, but if it was a very cold day, it would be quite nice. These dip stitches, oh, I love doing those so much. He's just brought out, Stephen West this is, has just brought out a cowl, mittens, hat, and I think a sweater, all with this dip stitch. I'm almost certainly going to make the mittens, and probably, maybe not the hat, but probably the cowl. I really, really enjoyed that stitch. The first repeat of it was a little bit challenging because you've got to count along and you've got to count down. But after that first repeat, where you need to put it is really obvious. So the next ones were just fun. Sorry, my fringe is awful. I'm trying to grow it out. I don't know why, but at the moment I can't stand to have my fringe touching my face. So I thought the only way to deal with it is to grow it out. I've tried before and I get bored and I cut it. I'm really, really trying to restrain myself this time and not cut it. Sorry, that was a major tangent. So yeah, very, very happy with this. Love the colours. I don't like to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but the colours just worked really well together. Even on the border, although I've added colours in that aren't in the main shawl, I think they blend in nicely. Just really happy with it. I will probably knit another one at some point in the not too distant future. But more about all of that later on. So, having finished this, and I think I finished it on, it was either the Thursday or the Friday, which would have been November the 2nd or 3rd. I finished this and I immediately cast something new on. And I spoke about this when I saw you last. But I've changed what I was doing a little bit. I had decided that I fail every year to knit myself a Christmas sweater. Every year. And that maybe the plan was to knit myself a Christmas shawl, because I enjoy knitting shawls more than I enjoy knitting sweaters, and there was a chance I might finish it. So I decided I was going to re-knit shawlography. I did it as an M cowl. Excuse me. I'm going to have a little drink. Sorry about that. I did it as an M cowl in 2021. I don't know why the screen's suddenly gone all dark. Never mind. And when I knit it, I said I was going to do it again. But I hadn't got round to it until now. So I literally finished this and cast that on. I changed some of the yarns a bit from the ones that I showed you last time. So I did use this one. This is a very dark charcoaly grey. This is from Unbelievable. Yes, Unbelievable, and it's called black. But when you see it against black, it's charcoaly and it's slightly variegated. It's really nice. And I'll show you how it looks different against black. This is Cascade Heritage and this is Night, which, if you hold it against black, looks like a very, very dark navy. But I thought it was just quite warm and it worked well with that. Those I showed you before and I kept those. The red, which is, wow, very glowing. It's not that orangey and not that glowy. It is called Christmas Red, and it's another Cascade Heritage sock. And it is the perfect Christmas red. It is not that bright. So those three were the same as I originally showed you. I'd originally got a very, very dark green, and I love it. But I thought it was making the whole thing very dark, and I wanted it to be a bit bright and Christmassy. So I substituted that for these two. These are both my own hand dyed. This one is emerald and this one is lime. I use a lot of this because I really, really like it. So where I would have put the one green in, I'm using these, interchanging these to just brighten it up a bit. And for the white, I'd got a Cascade Heritage again, but I knew I wouldn't use the whole thing, and I didn't really want to break into a whole 100-gram skein to use like 40-50 grams of it. So again, I fished out some of my hand-dyed leftovers, which may have been a mistake because I've still got the border to do and I've only got this much left. And this isn't plain white. I don't know if you can see. There are some speckles of colour in there. That again I thought would just lift it a little bit. So I might have to scrounge through and find some more leftovers that I can use in the border, because that might be enough, but I'm not convinced. So those are the colours I'm using. I expect you like to see the shawl. Oh gosh, let's try not to drop anything on the floor today. That would be good. Right, I have got on with this like a house on fire, which doesn't sound like a good thing, but apparently it is. I haven't wanted to put it down. It's the only, well, it's not quite the only thing I've knit on, but it's almost the only thing I've knit on for 2 weeks. So section 1 and 2, the wedges. I've changed, I did this with my original one, and I've changed on this one as well. The original pattern tells you to go cycle through your colours, but that upset the Libra in me that must have balance. So I got to the middle and then I reversed the colours back the other way. Then there's the slip stitch section. That's where I've put in the lime green, and you can see here the 2 greens, they go okay. And I think the lime against the red offends me less than that green against the red. I've got a big thing about green and red together, which is a shame because they are like my ultimate Christmas colours. So that makes my life very difficult. Do not underestimate how difficult that makes things. Then there were the infamous shrimps, which I did in the charcoal grey. This slip stitch section. The equally infamous, oh, what are these things called? Welts, which I did in the darker green, the emerald. The triangle section, which was the lime green and the night, the Cascade Heritage. And then the bubbles. And here I slipped up. I was going to do the bubbles in red so that they would look like holly berries. And I made notes of all this. I went through the pattern. I looked at my original shawl, decided which colours I wanted to work with which and where, noted it all down on my pattern, put red for the bubbles, got to the bubbles and went, oh, I don't know why I want to do them red, I'll do them white. Then they'll look like snowballs. There are 46 of these bubbles, and I got to around 40 of them and then went, oh, I was going to do them red so they look like holly berries. Oh, well, I'm not pulling them out now. So white bubbles like snowballs is what we went with. Then you have these 2 striped wedge sections that I did in the emerald and the white. That was the only bit of the shawl that I really had to slog through. They feel like they're going on forever. They're short row wedges, and you just, oh, sun's coming out now. How does he do that? He said it's not raining and now it's not. That's really spooky. I've derailed myself again, haven't I? Yeah, they just seem to take forever, but I slogged through them when I got them done. And half the reason they seemed to take forever was that I was looking forward to getting to the next section, which is the brioche. know how well you can see that. And the brioche I'm doing in the Unbeliever wool and the red. And here again, with hindsight, I prefer the wrong side. This is the wrong side. There's more of the white on the wedge, and the red is more, these are the dominant colour on the brioche. But I don't prefer it enough that I'm going to pull it back and redo those. So this is what we have, and this is what we're going to keep. Once it's blocked, the brioche will open up a bit and you'll see the red a bit better. But yeah, so I think by the time you see this next, it will be finished, and that may even be next week. I'm very, very happy with it. I realise it's probably a bit garish and not a pattern that everybody will go, oh, that's pretty, because it is Stephen West, and we know that Stephen West can be a bit out there. And I don't like all of his patterns by any means. And some of them that you look at and you think, oof, blimey, that's a little bit... You can tone them down with your colour choices, even by knitting them all in one colour. I like it, and I'm going to wear it, so that's all that matters, isn't it? And I intend to wear it for the whole of December. It'll either be round my neck or round my shoulders, but I want to have it on every single day through December. That is my ambition, which again I couldn't have done with a sweater because I would want to keep washing it. So I think what I'm going to do, what I'd like to do at the moment anyway, and I may have forgotten this by next October, is make this a November tradition. Every November I want to spend, if I do an MCAL in October doing the MCAL, and then November knitting myself a Christmas shawl for that year. I already know what I want to knit next year, and I'm pretty decided on what colours I want to use as well. They will probably be red and green orientated because, as aforementioned, those are my ultimate Christmas colours. So yeah, watch this space. Let's see what next November brings. I have cast on something else. I needed something that I could knit. Okay. Let's start at the beginning. We have a new yarn store in town, and it is literally at the bottom of my road. And it's a lady who used to have a stall on the market. So she's waiting for more stock. When I went in, I wonder if I can link her Facebook page. I'll try and link her Facebook page down below. When I went in, she only really had her market stall stock, and so the shop looked a little bit empty. But of course I managed to find something to buy because, well, you do, don't you? And I bought 2 balls of this, which she had on buy one get one free, buy one get one half price. There was some sort of deal on it anyway. It's King Cole Footsie. It is meant to be a sock yarn, but it is 100% acrylic. And I've used this a few times in the past. I have never made a pair of socks with it. I made a cowl, certainly. I think possibly a hat. Anyway, this is the watermelon colourway, but I thought, I mean, it looks very orange there. For some reason, is that less orange? That's more the real colour. I thought this was more Christmassy than the Christmas Fruits, which is like a very, very bright neon red. It is the red that Cascade Heritage looked just now. It's like, wow. And there's yellow and green in it, and it was too bright. But I like this one, and I thought this one looked Christmassy, and I wanted to have something to knit on the bus. Now, It's been a very long time since I rode on a bus, probably 20 years, because that's how long we've lived here. And the bus service in my part of the country is not good. Especially having come from London, where there was literally a bus stop outside my house, where you could catch a bus every 2 or 3 minutes to pretty much everywhere. So I had a hospital appointment on Thursday last week. And for the first time in 4 years, I was going to an appointment by myself. I was taking myself to the appointment. And it was at the hospital in Taunton, where they have a multi-storey car park that's relatively new. It was built within the last 10 years and it is awful. Absolutely awful. It is so poorly designed. Sorry, I've got a real frog today. That 3 or 4 times a day, a security guard has to come out and sort it out, because it's designed so that the cars coming out, if there's enough of them, block the cars trying to get in. And the cars trying to get in are blocking the cars that are trying to come out. So nobody goes anywhere for like an hour, until security men come and direct everybody and get it all sorted out. And this literally happens every day, several times a day. And I've been sat in that queue before now when Dave has driven me to the hospital. And I mean, that's fine, because I can just get out the car and go to the clinic and still be there on time. But I was really stressed about being stuck in the queue. I can't just get out and abandon my car. And I hate being late. Above pretty much everything else, I would rather not go somewhere than be late. So I'd worked out I'd use the Park and Ride. Park and Ride has only recently reopened on my side of town, because they did a whole load of roadworks and stuff and it was shut for ages. So I thought I'll use the Park and Ride. It stops literally outside the door of the hospital, and it's the same bus stop to get back on, to go back. You can't get lost because it's just the Park and Ride bus that goes there, and it does a circuit from the Park and Ride on the east side of town to the one on the west and then back again. You can't get lost. Even if you get on the wrong bus, all you have to do is wait for it to turn around and come back the other way. So that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted something to knit on the bus. And I thought, I'll start myself a Christmas hat. I'd clearly forgotten what bus travel was like. It put me in mind of being a driving instructor again, because I was constantly being lurched forward, lurched backwards and thrown round corners. I did not get my knitting out because I was afraid someone would lose an eye, probably me. But I did do this much knitting. Not on the bus. So I've started the Christmas hat with the watermelon, and I think it's coming out really Christmassy. It's got the red and green. This is going to be my Christmas hat. So when I've finished the shawl, I'm going to carry on with my hat. I need my Christmas hat before the beginning of December. It will probably clash horribly with the shawl, and I will wear them both together and go, it's Christmas, live with it. Right. So that was a very long way of telling you that I had cast on a new hat. Pattern. I think I used the numbers from the sock head slouch. But I measured my head. And according to the sock head slouch pattern, I should be knitting an extra large. Which is a puzzle, because in motorcycle helmets, I take a medium. And I realise that's not necessarily rather relevant to hat knitting, but I'm not sure pardon me, I'm not sure I'm an extra large. So I think I cast on a large, the numbers for a large. But we'll see. At the moment it looks very, very small and possibly will not fit on my head. In which case, Ewan might be getting a new Christmas hat because he's got a smaller head than everybody. So, that's the end of the knitting content. What shall I tell you about next? I'm going to show you my sewing. And then I'm going to do some more talky bits that might be interesting to some of you. Last week I also said, as well as the Christmas jumper that I fail to knit every year, I buy fabric and then fail to make myself a Christmas project bag. Well, I tell you, I don't know what had happened to me last week, but I was on fire. The room got changed round, I went on a bus and I did sewing. The first thing I'm going to show you is a bit of a cheat because it was a bag that was already made that I have adapted. This bag was a gift from somebody a couple of years ago and I loved it very much, but I broke the zip. It had a zip on it and I managed to shut it in a drawer that I keep my project bags in, and broke the zip. And it was a little toothed plastic zip. There was no saving it. So the bag has sat in my drawer for at least a year and I've not used it because the zip was broken. And then I had the bright idea of taking the zip out. So I did that. I sewed up the sort of like the side seams where the zip had been in, and I restitched the top. Then I put on some ribbon which says Merry Christmas, because I thought this was kind of Christmassy, and I got Dave to put some poppers on it. So now I have another Christmas bag. I say another. Technically it was my first Christmas bag because it was the first one I did. But there are more. I shall show you. Why won't that one pop? Oh, it did pop. It just didn't make a noise. So that was the first one. And the easiest. When I fished out all my Christmas fabrics, I discovered that last year, I'd made a lot of bags last year for people for Christmas presents, and I'd cut out a couple for myself, but then was so over sewing that I never put them together. So there was this one cut out, and it was cut from a fat quarter, and because it's long and narrow, I obviously lacked the imagination to do anything other than this with it. So I literally just folded it in half. But I had fabric, the wadding and the lining were all cut out. So I just sewed it up and I've made it into a bag that you can fold over and tie. So yeah, Christmas sock bag from a fat quarter. I had another couple of fat quarters left that I had obviously intended to make a bag with, because again I had the lining and the wadding all cut out. But there was one red one and one blue one, and I don't know whether I'd originally thought of making half and half, one side, one the other, but I had the supposedly brilliant idea, I'll do it like patchwork. So before I show you this, I know there are people who watch this who sew, and who sew a lot, and I'm thinking of you, and who quilt, and who do the most stunning, and Lorraine, you've both done absolutely stunning hexie quilts just recently. Please don't judge, okay? This is what I ended up with. This side doesn't look too bad. Lines up fairly well. It's a little bit off here, but mostly it lines up fairly well. The other side, oh boy. I made a mistake with the cutting. And then I exacerbated that mistake with the sewing. I took way too much seam allowance on this seam and that seam, and so I ended up with a much smaller square than I'd started out with, which was already smaller than it should have been. So I kind of put it aside for an hour or so, went and had some lunch and came back when my temper had cooled. And I trimmed it all down and I made it work. Great. Sewed it all up, put it together. I was pressing it and I discovered that on one side and on the bottom I'd not caught the edge of the fabric. So there was a gap and you could see the wadding through it. So I put it aside again, once again, so that I wouldn't lose my temper, and had to think about it. And my solution, which isn't ideal, but it does cover it up, was to put, I've just hand stitched a white satin ribbon round both sides and the bottom and used it for the tie. Ordinarily what I would have done is repaired it by just folding the very edge of the fabric over and then just pulling it with an invisible stitch. But I couldn't do that because I know from experience that this fabric frays if you do that, and all you do is keep tearing the edge and your bit of material gets smaller and smaller as you go. So I had to find an alternative, and that was my alternative, was the ribbon. So I suppose all's well that ends well. It is only for me. It doesn't really matter. And in actual fact, I quite like, I think the dodgy side with the smaller square is actually my favourite. There's no accounting for taste, is there? Right, then I got on to the big guns. First of all, I have this. This fabric I bought in a sale after Christmas. I think I only bought 1/2 metre of it and I've used every scrap. So once again, it's quite an oddly shaped bag. It's more of a bucket. I used the lining fabric and I stitched some old Christmas ribbon over it. Got Dave to put a popper in. There's no pockets or anything. It is literally just like a bucket. And having used this so much, I think it will work because I bought some new wadding. You can probably tell this is much firmer than these. These are really soft. I thought I'd bought iron on, but it wasn't. I know because I tried and tried to iron it on and it wouldn't stick. But it does have, one side is almost like rubbery. I'm beginning to suspect it's like upholstery wadding or something. But it was £6 for 2 metres. So I'm not going to complain. I just worked with it. Unlike my sewing machine. I treated myself. After the pandemic, I'd made scrubs for the NHS during the pandemic. And I'd done it all on my mum's old sewing machine, which is very, very basic. And I treated myself to a nice quilting machine because I like to make bags for myself. And it's got embroidery stitches and I could do fancy things on it and what have you. No, I can't. No, I can't. I probably need to adjust it or take it somewhere and get it looked at. But it does not have the torque to go through thick wadding. It just won't do it. It complains, oh gosh, that was in my coffee, lucky. It complains about this very, very thin wadding. So when it was presented with this wadding, it just went, I don't think so. No. Sew it by hand, lady. But I didn't sew it by hand. I had given my mum's old machine to Peter and I borrowed it back. And after having to remind myself how it worked, because my new machine is all computerized and very different. There's no foot pedal, you just press a button, and yeah. So I think I probably dislocated my hip using the foot pedal, and I kept going faster and faster. The more tricky something got, the more I leaned in, and that pressed my foot down, and then I went faster and faster. I've completely lost the knack of using an ordinary foot pedal machine. But anyway, the bags got made. That's the important thing. So, yes, Christmas mousy bag. That's not all. There's another two. And they just get bigger and bigger, like Russian dolls, but in reverse. I had this lovely fabric. Again, I think I bought this in a sale. It was wider than the mousy fabric, but again, I think I only bought half a metre of it. And this one, I just put some ribbon on for sort of, you know. Got Dave to put 2 poppers in, and I lined it with orange. I'm not sure which of these is my favourite. I really, really like them all. But it will stand up on its own. It's not too happy about that at the moment because I've had it folded. But it will stand up on its own. So again, it's like a giant basket, really, rather than a bag. And my hope is that I can, if necessary, fold it over to work with it. And last, but definitely not least, this one. Again, bought in a sale after Christmas. This one I made a handle for with some offcuts. And this one I lined with gold. And again, got Dave to put some poppers on, because I didn't think a drawstring would work. The wadding is way too firm. I could have put zips in, but again, they just didn't seem in keeping. So poppers it was. So there we go. 5 project bags, and I still have some Christmas fabric left. But I have a project bag for each of my advents, and that's really all that I needed. So, and I'd had enough of sewing by then. I cut everything out on Friday, mostly with my rotary cutter, because my hand, the problems with my hand, I find using scissors very painful. Then I spent a lot of Saturday using scissors. Because I'd had so much trouble with this bag, I didn't get it all finished on Saturday, so I had to sew again on Sunday, and by then I was over sewing, thoroughly over sewing. I may not touch that machine again for another year. So yeah, but I have the Christmas bags that I need, and that was my objective, and I achieved my objective, so we're sorted. Where on earth I'm going to put these bags between the 1st of January and the 30th of November next year, that's a challenge for another day. I did not think of that when I was making huge, enormous bags. And I can't use them during the year because Dave said, well, just use them during the year. Are you mad? So, yes, that's all my making. Let us get on to more important matters. Now, last week, no, a fortnight ago, last episode, I'm being careful with my wording again. I announced that I'd reached 2,000 subscribers and that I wanted to thank you all. I'm trying to plan my next sentence. And I asked you to answer a question to enter. Damn, I shouldn't have said enter. Oh, well, it's too late now. To see who would win this. One moment, I forgot to get it out. See, now I have these drawers, I've got them all organised. So, the thank you gift was a skein of Ducky Darling's yarn called Sunrise, a mini skein of my own yarn that I thought worked with it very nicely, and this, which I didn't show you, which is a Ducky Darling's pin. I forgot about that, I'm sorry. So I've done a comment pickery thing, and I'm going to put in here the winner. So the question I asked was, I should have told you this before, was what did you want to be when you grew up, essentially. So many nurses. So many nurses. And a lot of people who actually made it to being a nurse. Some whose careers took a different path altogether. Some who, I don't know, just, there was some bizarre ambitions. But yeah, a lot of you made your ambition come true. A lot of you decided that in actual fact being a mum was, and that is a job in itself, and it is a lifelong project. There's no clocking off at the end of the day if you're a mum. It was really, really interesting to read all your comments. I think there were 152, and so thank you for that. And Smiler Babes, if you would like to email me at mousesmakes@gmail.com with your address, I will get your thank you gift off to you. Thank you so much to everybody who commented. I'm sorry there isn't a gift for all of you. Better luck next time. Also, I should mention, if anybody messages any of you pretending to be me, they are not me. I am not going to message you. This is the only way that you will be told who is going to receive the thank you. And it's now for Smiler Babes to email me. I will never ask you for anything other than your address. I don't need your bank account details, your PayPal details. I don't need any money from you for postage. I just need your address. So please don't reply to anybody saying that they're me and they need some help out with the postage or whatever. There's all sorts of stupid scams going on. Anyway, while we're on the subject of things like that, I haven't mentioned it much during the year because a lot of you joined at the beginning of the year, and it is in the description box under every episode. The Stephen West Marathon. That is coming to a close. I think I said the 1st of December. You had till the 1st of December to get your finished objects into the thread on the Mouses Makes Ravelry page. Please make sure you do. Please make sure you've complied with the rules. There's got to be at least 2. And I will be making a separate video to say who's won the prize for that. There may be more than one. But again, it's still the same. I will announce it on that video, and it's for you to contact me. It's the safest way to do it because otherwise you won't know if it's me or someone else messaging you. So there's that I wanted to tell you about. And then some very exciting news. I haven't done a make along this year, I don't think. There might have been one at the beginning of the year. But I didn't do my usual stock make along in the autumn, and I just didn't have the energy for it. But a friend from Texas, Belinda, who has a podcast, Belinda's Baubles. Some of you may watch it. I'm going to link it below. and that is important. You will need that link. Belinda is the ideas person behind running an MCAL that we're going to share the first part of next year. So it begins on the 1st of January and it ends on the 31st of March, and it's called the Topping Off Mal. And there's a little video which I'm going to try and link on the end of this. If I can't link it, I'll share. No, if I can't add it, I'll share a link below for you to watch because it's got all the details in it. Anything that is cast on before the 1st of January 2024 can be entered into the MCAL. Knitting, crochet, I can't remember if we said cross stitch or not. Watch Belinda, and because as I say, it's Belinda's baby. I'm just really along for the ride and to hold her hand because it's her first MCAL. No, Mal. I've got MCAL on the brain, sorry. You need to watch both my channel and Belinda's. There will be prizes along the way, but they may only be announced on mine, or they may only be announced on hers, or we may both announce them. So in order to make sure, you need to watch both channels. You don't have to subscribe, though that would be appreciated. Belinda doesn't have very many subscribers. She's quite new to knitting podcasting. So if you could give her a bit of a boost, that would be brilliant. But it's not necessary. There will be on my Ravelry page, on Mouses Makes Ravelry page, there will be a chatter thread. And that's where we'll draw the prizes as we go along. And there will be a finished object thread. Please only put your finished objects in the finished object thread, or you can email them to Belinda. The details for that are on Belinda's podcast and on the little amazing video that she's done. I had no hand in that at all. None at all. That was all Belinda. I don't even know how she did it. It's worth watching that and noting down the details on it. There will be prizes at the end of the Mal, and they will be drawn either from the Ravelry thread or from the email entries to Belinda. We've done it that way because not everyone can or does use Ravelry. There is a hashtag on Instagram, but we won't be drawing any prizes from that because Instagram have done something with the way they arrange things. So before, you'd have a hashtag and things would go on there in chronological order. So if, for example, I was running a Mal, I could have a look and go, oh, these are the latest entries. These are the ones for this last week. But now you can't. They're all jumbled up. And what you see are the most popular ones. And the ones that maybe haven't got as many likes, or for whatever reason, you don't see them. They don't hide them exactly, but they're not obviously easily found. So we thought we'd do it this way. I've got the Ravelry. If you can't use Ravelry, you can email to Belinda. Doesn't matter whether you're in the UK or the US, you can do it either way. It's whatever suits you. You will get an equal chance whichever path you choose. So, I think that's everything. If I've forgotten anything, watch Belinda's video. It's all in there. But I'm pretty sure that was everything. So, I've yet again, saying I've got nothing to talk to you about, I've managed to talk to you for nearly an hour. I don't know how it happens. I really don't. I may record next week. Don't panic if I don't. It just means I've just got nothing to show you. I am touching wood with both hands very firmly, feeling a huge amount better. You can probably tell. I know you could tell last time I recorded. I don't know if it'll last. Probably not. But I'm making hay while the sun shines. So please don't worry if I don't record next week. It's not that I'm really poorly. It's just I've got nothing to show you because I've been doing other stuff. So until I see you again, happy knitting. And bye from me and the Snorlax, who is Miss Poppy. Bye, guys.